It appeared at the outer rim of the Irani system without a whisper, a shadow carved into the shape of a ship, long and jagged like a shard of obsidian drifting through endless black. The automated watchtowers on the far edge of the Union's border detected it first. A single, unmarked vessel with no transponder codes, no heat signature, no broadcasted intent. At first, they assumed it was debris, some derelict wreck caught in the pull of Irani's twin suns. Then it shifted, just slightly, just enough to prove it was alive. Within hours, the councils were summoned. 11 civilizations, each sending their highest admirals, their most cautious analysts, their most suspicious politicians. They gathered around a holographic projection of the anomaly, its silhouette spinning slowly above the center table. The ship had no curves, no symmetry of design, just black jagged armor, sharp enough to look like it could cut the stars themselves. No one recognized it. Is it one of ours? An Irani lord demanded, his voice heavy with a metallic undertone that made the room hum. Negative, replied a Nar fleet commander. No registry match. No Union prototype fits the hull design. It's military grade, though. Look at the plating density. Then it's a bluff, muttered a voice from the far side of the table. Some pirate scare tactic. Too big to be a fighter, too small to be a dreadnought. I say we intercept and dismantle it. The meeting erupted with overlapping theories. Some believed it was a new weapon from a fringe species seeking attention. Others whispered about rogue AI experiments gone wrong. A few said nothing, staring at the projection as if they recognized something in its silence. Then a voice cut through the static chatter, slow and deliberate. Humans. The word drew a ripple of unease across the chamber. Humans? Impossible, scoffed Admiral Virath of the Jail Dominion. Earth was sterilized 50 cycles ago. We saw to that. Didn't we already clean up Earth? Another asked, with an almost casual arrogance. The phrase landed like a ghost in the room. No one openly questioned the purge. 50 years ago, the Union had voted unanimously to erase humanity. Too aggressive, too independent, too unwilling to kneel. They had struck fast and hard, turning the blue jewel of soul into fire and silence. And when it was done, they had called it peace. But now, here was a ship, black as the void, silent as the grave. A shadow from the ashes. The council ordered a scout ship to approach. It was armed lightly, a symbolic show of strength, but the Black Echo did not move. It simply watched, or maybe it didn't watch at all. The moment the scout crossed within 20,000 kilometers, the sensors screamed static, and then there was nothing. No wreckage, no distress signal. It simply ceased to exist. This is a malfunction, one commander insisted, his tone strained. Deploy a proper vessel, shields, jammers, diplomats on board. The second ship went out heavily armed, sleek, and bristling with confidence. The Black Echo did not react. No weapon fire, no evasive maneuvers. It let the vessel come closer, and then it vanished faster than the first. The council chamber turned cold. Before anyone could argue, the comms across the system crackled. No encryption, no translation required. Just a voice, raw and human, deep enough to send a shiver down every spine listening. Don't come closer. For the first time in decades, the Union fleets hesitated. One ship, no escort, no flag. Yet, it stood against 11 civilizations without flinching. Something was alive inside that shadow, something that had survived what they believed was impossible, and whatever it was not afraid. The name Gideon wasn't known to the galaxy. Not yet. To them, he was just a ghost piloting an impossible machine. But inside the Black Echo's cockpit, where light was kept dim and the walls pulsed faintly with the hum of something older than Union tech, Gideon sat strapped into a seat that felt more like a tomb. His eyes, sharp and hollow from years of living like an animal in asteroid fields, reflected the crimson glow of the command console. Every breath he took fogged slightly. In the chilled air, the ship conserved every watt of energy for one thing: destruction. 50 years ago, Gideon was just another soldier on Earth, stubborn, reckless, and fiercely loyal to a homeworld that didn't kneel. When the Union's purge came, he had been stationed on the orbital defense rings, watching helplessly as fire rained down. Atmosphere choked out and cities crumbled into silence. He remembered the way the sky burned like rust. He remembered his daughter's last breath, how the sound faded as oxygen vanished. He remembered the Union drones watching, recording every second like it was a training exercise. Those memories didn't fade. They fermented, turning into something harder than rage. The galaxy believed humanity died that day. The truth was uglier. A few scattered survivors clawed through wreckage on Mars, Titan, and forgotten mining outposts. Gideon had been one of them, living like a wolf in the dark, scavenging technology, reverse engineering scraps of alien weapons, keeping himself alive with hatred as his only fuel. Then he found a Project Black Echo. Buried under the ruins of Mars was a half-built prototype, humanity's last desperate invention. Not a warship in the traditional sense, but something designed to terrify. It didn't rely on brute force or missile barrages. It bent the rules of physics themselves, using a reactor that twisted gravitational folds and event wave fields capable of unraveling matter at the molecular level. It didn't explode targets, it erased them. The ship's AI had a singular mission: respond if Earth falls. It had waited decades for someone like him. Now, Gideon sat in its black heart, waiting for the Union's next move. His fingers hovered over the fire controls, but he wasn't in a rush. Predators didn't rush. They waited until their prey thought it was safe. A chime broke the silence in the cockpit. Approaching fleet detected, the AI said, its voice flat, neither male nor female. 37 Union vessels. 2 flag carriers. Quantum jammers deployed. They're testing me, Gideon murmured. Correction. They are surrounding you, the AI replied. Containment strategy detected. He smirked, a humorless shadow of a grin. Good. Let them think they're the hunters. The Union fleet approached with the arrogance of civilizations that had forgotten fear. From the command deck of the lead carrier, Admiral Kethis of the Irani watched the black ship through his tactical screens. Do not engage, he ordered. Form a sphere. Keep it boxed in. Admiral, his second-in-command said nervously, that ship has erased 2 of our vessels. Should we not? Kethis cut him off. It's 1 vessel. 1. This is intimidation, nothing more. We'll seize it. Bring me the pilot alive. Inside Black Echo, Gideon leaned forward as the ships closed. The AI displayed their formation like a constellation map. To anyone else, being outnumbered 37-1 would mean doom. To him, it meant clarity. Target lock? He asked. 27 ships within event wave radius, the AI replied. Firing solution ready. He stared at the map for a long moment, his hand resting on the glowing trigger pad. The memory of his daughter's laughter, bright, fragile, flashed unbidden, then her silence. He pressed his palm down. Outside, the stars rippled. The event wave weapon released a pulse so subtle it looked like space itself had exhaled. On the Irani fleet scanners, chaos erupted. 1 carrier vanished instantly, not in flame, but in sudden absence, as if it had never existed. 3 smaller ships flickered, their hulls unspooling into fragments of light before dissolving into nothingness. Panic tore through the comm channels. Evasive, evasive. Someone screamed across open comms. Admiral, The carrier, she's gone. No explosion, just shut up and regroup. Kethis roared, but Gideon was already gone. Black Echo folded. Space around itself, vanishing from one spot and reappearing behind the fleet's rear guard. Before they could adjust, another event wave ripple shredded 4 interceptors. From the safety of his command deck, Kethis felt his stomach drop. "This is no bluff," he whispered. Gideon's voice cut through their encrypted channels, uninvited. "And cold. You ever burn a planet, Admiral?" Kethis froze. The voice was human. "You erased Earth," Gideon continued, his tone a blade of ice. "Now I'm here to show you what that feels like." The Union fleet broke formation, fear spreading. Faster than orders. In 9 minutes, 20 ships were gone. Those that survived fled into the dark, leaving Admiral Kethis silent on his deck. Staring at the spot where the black ship had hovered inside the cockpit, Gideon exhaled slowly. Not victory, not satisfaction, just another step. The AI's voice hummed again. "Next targets acquired." "Then let's remind them," Gideon whispered, "that humanity never forgets." The Union had never known silence like this. Not the silence of peace, but the heavy, crushing silence of fear, the kind that comes when an enemy you cannot understand refuses to speak, refuses to negotiate, and refuses to die. Across the core. Worlds, the name of the black ship had already become legend, the echo of Earth. Some whispered it like a ghost story, others spat it like a curse. But Admiral Kethis of the Irani High Fleet wasn't interested in stories. He wanted control. 3 days had passed since Gideon had cut through the fleet at Irani's border like a scalpel through paper. 20 ships lost in under 9 minutes, no. Wreckage, no survivors. It was the kind of loss that made entire military doctrines collapse. Now, in the Council War Chamber orbiting the capital world of Felion Prime, 11 representatives argued like cornered animals. "This is not a warship," growled a scaled Varian general, his spine crest rattling with agitation. "It's something else. No vessel moves like that. No weapon we know erases matter without heat or radiation." "It must be automated," an Utran delegate said, their translucent skin rippling with unease. "A drone weapon, perhaps an experimental." AI. The humans were primitive, yes, but they dabbled in unconventional engineering. "They were primitive," a voice snapped from the far end of the chamber. Admiral Sodal stood there, the woman whose name would soon become etched into every scream of vengeance Gideon uttered. Her voice was calm, firm, but threaded with steel. "Do not forget why we purged them. They refused every treaty. They grew faster than our monitoring allowed. Their aggression had to be contained." "Contained?" Another scoffed. "You call turning a living planet into ash containment?" The chamber grew tense. For the first time in decades, the word Earth wasn't spoken with smug victory. It was spoken with regret, maybe even fear. Sodal's expression hardened. "Whatever. This echo is alone. And alone it will fall." Far from their debate, Gideon drifted in the shadows between stars, watching their fleets converge on him like vultures circling a predator they didn't understand. Black Echo systems hummed in readiness. The ship didn't just process threats. It studied them, learned from every formation, every evasive maneuver. It was as if the vessel had a mind of its own, a reflection of Gideon's fury sharpened into artificial intelligence. Fleet convergence detected. The AI intoned, its voice as smooth as ice over steel. 72 ships. Formation suggests entrapment. Gideon leaned forward, his fingers tracing the control pads. Let them try. The fleet arrived in full, a gleaming wall of gold and blue armor against the void. From the lead dreadnought, Harmony's Judgment, Admiral Kethis hailed the black ship on all frequencies. Unidentified vessel, this is Admiral Kethis of the Arani High Fleet. You are outnumbered and outgunned. We do not wish to destroy you. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Gideon didn't answer. Seconds stretched into minutes. Tension rippled across the Union's comm network. The black ship remained still, as if mocking them, its jagged hull reflecting no light, no heat. Then a voice crackled across every frequency uninvited. Unencrypted, raw. You ever burn a planet, Admiral? Kethis stiffened. Identify yourself. You know who I am, the voice replied, slow and venomous. You just hoped I was dead with the rest of them. The Admiral's mandibles clicked. In unease. You're human? Last time I checked, Gideon muttered. And you owe me answers. Kethis hesitated. The purge was necessary. Your species was. Don't you dare. Gideon's voice cut like a blade, cold and low. Don't you dare call the murder of 1 billion souls necessary. I was there. I watched my daughter suffocate while your drones monitored oxygen levels for efficiency. I watched the firestorms eat through my cities while your councils counted. The cost per missile. You didn't offer peace. You offered a grave. Silence fell across the fleet. Then Kethis tried one last time. We can negotiate. The black ship moved. It didn't fire missiles or lasers. Instead, the stars around it seemed to bend as Black Echo folded space, appearing behind the Union's rear guard in a burst of distortion. Before sensors could track it, 2 event wave pulses rippled outward silent, almost invisible. 2 Union. Carriers simply vanished. No flames, no debris, just gone. Open fire. Kethis screamed. The fleet fired in unison, kinetic rounds and plasma bursts cutting through space. But they hit nothing. Black Echo blinked out again, reappearing between. 2 destroyers slicing through them with a precision strike. Their screams on the comms were cut short as the ships unraveled into fragments of light. On the command deck of Harmony's Judgment, chaos erupted. Officers scrambled to predict the black ship's jumps, but its movements weren't random. They were predatory, deliberate. Gideon wasn't running. He was hunting. In the cockpit of Black Echo, Gideon's face was a mask of calm rage. How many more fleets will you send? He murmured, though no one could hear. How many before you understand? The eye flickered. Warning. Reinforcements detected. Larger force inbound. Good, Gideon whispered. Let them come. The galaxy's about to remember what humanity does when it's cornered. By the time the battle ended, 19 Union ships were gone. The rest scattered, their formations broken, their pride shattered. Gideon didn't chase them. He didn't need to. The message was already written in their fear. Back in the war chamber, Admiral Sodel's hands gripped the railing as reports streamed in. 1 ship, she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. 1 human ship did this. A counselor. Turned pale. What if they're not extinct? Sodel's gaze hardened. Then we finish what we started. But far beyond their reach, Gideon smiled bitterly. They thought this was war. It wasn't. Not yet. It was only the opening. Whisper of a storm they didn't understand. The Lars station hung in the void like a giant lotus of steel and glass, its 6 rotating petals gleaming against the cold light of a nearby star. It was not a fortress, not even a military outpost, but the beating heart of the Union's historical memory. Every broadcast, every classified file, every official narrative passed through its servers. For 50 years, the purge of Earth had been written and rewritten here until the truth was smothered under layers of propaganda and silence. Gideon knew this better than anyone. That was why he was here now. Black Echo approached from deep shadow, wrapped in its cloak of distortion. Even with all the station's advanced sensors scanning every arc of space, the ship was invisible, not because of stealth plating or jamming fields, but because it bent the light and data streams around itself. To the station scanners, there was simply nothing there. It drifted closer, like a phantom stalking a sleeping city. Inside the command bay, Gideon's face was a study in stillness. He stared at the tactical display, his jaw clenched, eyes narrowed. The station wasn't a military target, but that was what made this moment heavier. Lars Station was filled with civilian scientists, archivists, technicians, people who weren't soldiers, but who maintained the lies that buried Earth's name. To destroy it would be to erase their history, and his, but to let it stand would mean allowing the Union's version of the truth to continue unchallenged. Event Wave Core at 60%. The eye intoned, its voice soft and almost clinical. Targeting coordinates locked. Recommend strike. Gideon didn't answer. His hand hovered over the fire pad, but he didn't press it. For the first time since the Irani fleet, he hesitated. Your silence indicates conflict, the AI observed. Purpose? These aren't soldiers, Gideon muttered. They're just people doing a job. They might not even know the truth of what they're keeping. Correction, the AI replied. Analysis of station data confirms full knowledge of historical events. 72% of staff possess classified clearance. 48% have participated in content suppression. Civilian designation, partial. Tactical advantage of destruction, significant. He closed his eyes for a second. Flashes of memory, his daughter's hand in his, her voice asking why the sky looked wrong cut through him. Rage burned in his chest, but alongside it was something else, something almost alien to him now, restraint. Hold the shot, he said, warning. The AI responded, Union reinforcements are inbound. Delay increases risk of interception. Hold it, Gideon repeated, his voice like iron. Then something unexpected happened. A transmission pinged across one of the low-frequency bands. It wasn't Union encryption. It wasn't even modern. COM protocol. It was old. Earth old. Gideon frowned and opened the channel. Static hissed, then a voice, faint but clear. Gideon. If you hear this, I don't know if you're alive, but if you are, I need you to stop. He froze. The voice was unmistakably human, female, and familiar. This is Commander Alina Rowe, United Earth Resistance, 11th Division. The recording continued. You knew me as Captain Rowe. I was stationed on Mars when it fell. We failed, Gideon. We all failed. But if you're out there, you have to remember, this isn't about vengeance. Not anymore. If we become like them, we're already gone. Gideon's breath hitched. He had thought everyone was dead. Rowe had been one of the last officers he fought alongside during the Mars bombardment. Her voice was like a ghost reaching across decades of silence. He clenched his fist, shaking slightly. Source of transmission? He demanded. The AI flickered. Underground relay beacon. Origin, ice caverns of Al-Ayar's moon. Signal recorded 38 years ago. Probability of live origin, 0.04%. She left this for someone like me, Gideon muttered. She knew one of us would come. His finger hovered over the fire pad again, but now the hesitation wasn't just about civilians, it was about her voice, her warning. He pulled his. Hand back. Cancel firing sequence. The AI paused. Command confirmed. Event Wave Core disengaged. Black Echo went quiet again, like a predator lowering its claws but not leaving the hunt. Gideon leaned back in his chair, staring at the stars. His mission wasn't changing, but the way he would carry it out was. This wasn't just about fire and erasure. It was about remembrance, about making sure every lie the Union had built came crashing down under the weight of truth. Reinforcement fleet detected, the AI said suddenly. 72 ships, 3 dreadnoughts. Lead vessel, Harmony's judgment. Gideon's jaw tightened. He didn't fear numbers, but this was the largest fleet they'd sent yet. Set a new course, he ordered. We're done here? Destination? The AI asked. Somewhere they can't ignore, Gideon replied. We're going to rip the truth out of their throats and show it to the galaxy. The stars outside blurred as Black Echo folded space, vanishing like a whisper before the Union fleet arrived. When LAR's archivists looked up from their screens, they had no idea how close they had come to being erased. And far away, Gideon's war had shifted. The galaxy thought they feared his weapons. They hadn't yet learned to fear his truth. Kyr's citadel was supposed to be untouchable. It floated like a jewel of authority over the twin suns of the Cynandil system, its vast sphere of silver and cobalt rotating with mechanical perfection. Rings of defense platforms shimmered around it like a crown, each armed with arrays capable of shredding capital-class ships in seconds. This was the heart of the Galactic Union, the place where wars were declared, peace was negotiated, and history was rewritten. To most of the galaxy, Kyr represented order and power. To Gideon, it was the place where Earth's death warrant had been signed. Black Echo drifted in the shadow of a shattered mining moon just beyond the Citadel's detection grid. The debris field provided cover, but it was also treacherous. Splintered. Chunks of rock and twisted hull fragments rotated endlessly, remnants of a corporate dispute that had ended with 3 moons being deliberately destroyed. The galaxy was full of scars like this, ugly wounds left by those who believed their power made them untouchable. Gideon stared at the holographic projection of the Citadel, its rings glinting as they rotated in complex defensive patterns. That's where it all started, he muttered, his voice low, heavy with decades of buried rage. That room, that vote, those words. The AI's voice hummed softly from the console. Kyr defense grid fully operational. 36 orbital stations. 3 docked fleets. 72 interceptors on patrol. Probability of direct assault success, 0.0008%. Gideon's lips curled into something that might have been a smile, but it carried no humor. I'm not here to burn their walls down. Not yet. I'm here to make them choke on the truth. Clarify objective, the AI said. Broadcast, Gideon replied. We go in quiet like we belong there. Once we're inside their network, every screen, every comm channel, every damn polished surface in that citadel is going to show them what they did to my world. The ship shifted, its hull shimmering as Black Echo cloned the signal signature of a departing diplomatic courier vessel. The hack wasn't just flawless, it was elegant. Within moments, the Citadel's outer rings cleared a path, mistaking the Black Predator for a harmless envoy. Gideon guided the vessel in slow, deliberate movements, threading through their defenses like a shadow walking through light. Inside Kyr's citadel, the day began like any other. Senators debated trade routes. Admirals reviewed fleet deployments. The polished halls echoed with the sound of calculated confidence. Admiral Sodal, tall and sharp-eyed, stood in her glass office high above the central tribunal dome, sipping a drink as she reviewed reports of Gideon's recent attacks. She read them without emotion. To her, the ghost ship was a nuisance, a symptom of unfinished business. She didn't know that unfinished business was about to walk through her walls. When Black Echo breached the inner docking bay, no alarm sounded. No sirens blared. Instead, lights flickered. Identity scans failed. Doors jammed open, then sealed shut without reason. Technicians muttered about system glitches, unaware that Gideon had already infected the Citadel's infrastructure with Black Echo's data-borne phantoms. One by one, the Citadel's cameras turned to black screens, and then his face appeared. Every monitor, every wall-sized display, every communication terminal lit up with the image of Gideon. His eyes were dark and unblinking, his scarred face illuminated by the blood-red glow of his cockpit. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You thought Earth was silent because it died," he said. "You were wrong. It's silent because it's been waiting." The tribunal dome froze mid-session. Officers shouted, trying to override the feed, but nothing worked. Gideon's face remained, staring at them as if through the veil of time. "You killed our people," he continued, his tone flat but heavy with grief that had hardened into iron. "You called it peace. You buried our name, wiped our records, erased our history as if it belonged to you. But you forgot one thing." The screen split, showing the uncut footage Gideon had stolen, grainy but undeniable recordings of the council chamber 50 years ago. Delegates casting votes. Projections estimating acceptable losses. And then Admiral Sodal leaning forward in that cold, wood-paneled room, saying the words that sealed Earth's fate. "They will burn." Gasps erupted in the dome. Some senators stood in shock. Others looked to Sodal, who had gone pale but remained motionless, jaw clenched. "This is not terrorism," Gideon said. "This is not revenge. This is the answer you were too arrogant to expect." Then Black Echo struck not with fire, but with silence. The Event Wave Core released a precision pulse aimed not at people or buildings, but at the Citadel's data heart. Every classified record, every forged justification, every revised account of the purge disintegrated into digital ash. The screens flickered as if reality itself was being rewritten. Across the core networks, a single phrase appeared. "We are not forgotten. We are not forgiven. We are not finished." In her office, Admiral Sodal gripped the edge of her desk, her fingers trembling. For the first time in her career, she felt something that wasn't authority or control. It was fear. She knew the ghost ship wasn't done, and she knew its pilot wasn't going to stop until the galaxy remembered everything they had buried. Black Echo slipped away from the Citadel as easily as it had entered, disappearing into the void while chaos erupted inside. It left no damage to structures, no casualties, but its strike was far more devastating than a battle. It had shattered the Union's illusion of untouchable power. For the first time, whispers began spreading across the core worlds. Not of Gideon the terrorist, but Gideon the survivor. Gideon the voice of the dead. Gideon who had turned the Union's own history into a weapon. And somewhere in the deep void, he sat in his cockpit, staring at the flickering stars. "Next," he said softly, "we go after the ones who signed the order." The ice lights pulsed in quiet agreement. "Target acquisition? Admiral Sodal?" "Her first," Gideon replied. "She started this. I'll make sure she lives long enough to watch it end." The jungle moon of Asta 9 was never meant to be a battlefield. It was quiet, humid, and cloaked beneath endless canopies of sapphire blue glass trees that shimmered under starlight. To the galaxy, Asta 9 was little more than a forgotten outpost, a fringe world, unclaimed and unwanted. But for Gideon, it was perfect. It was where the shattered pieces of humanity were gathering, called by whispers of a single man and his ship. For decades they had hidden, scattered like ashes among alien stars. Now, thanks to his broadcast, they were coming back together. Black Echo rested in the clearing like a silent predator, its jagged hull faintly glowing as its event wave core cooled. Gideon stood on the ramp, watching the new arrivals emerge from the forest. Some were human-scarred, Veterans, exiled engineers, smuggler pilots who had spent years pretending to be someone else. Others weren't human at all. A pair of Nerith defectors stepped forward, their pale exoskeletal armor chipped and stained from years of fighting for a union that had discarded them. And there was Burke, a towering, broad-shouldered man with deep-set eyes who looked like he had been born from the same iron that forged Earth's last weapons. "You brought them all," Burke said as he approached, his tone both impressed and suspicious. "Every survivor who could still hold a rifle or build a reactor. Not sure if you're a savior or just the devil they've been waiting for." Gideon gave a dry, humorless smirk. "I'm neither. I'm just the reminder." Behind him, the air shimmered as Alina Rowe walked down the ramp. She wore her old resistance jacket, patched and frayed, but she carried herself like a commander. Again, to the survivors, she wasn't just another human. They remembered her voice, her call sign, the defiance she had carried during the fall of Mars. The moment she spoke, the crowd listened. "The galaxy knows what they did to us now," she said, her voice ringing across the clearing. "They know about the vote, the purge, the lie they've told for 50 years. But knowledge isn't enough. We have to choose side and wait for them to erase us again, or stand and fight so that no one can ever bury us." A ripple went through the crowd. Some nodded silently, others shifted uneasily. Gideon remained silent, letting her words settle. Then a young woman stepped forward, barely 30, likely born and hiding on some backwater colony. Her voice trembled, but her words didn't. "And if we fight? Can we even win? That ship of yours is powerful, but it's just one." Gideon's gaze turned sharp. "We don't fight to win. We fight so they remember who they're dealing with." Before more could be said, Black Echo's AI cut through the air with an alert. "Warning, stealth vessel approaching. Trajectory suggests interception. Signature, Union Task Force Theta." Alina's expression hardened. "They found us." Gideon turned to Burke. "Get the civilians underground. Anyone who can hold a weapon, arm them. This won't be a negotiation." Moments later, the sky cracked open as the Vexor descended a Union execution ship, long and blade-shaped, its hull glistening with obsidian plating. Unlike traditional warships, the Vexor wasn't built for battles. It was built for purges. It carried no armies, only whisper operatives, faceless assassins trained to end conflicts before they could start. The Vexor didn't broadcast warnings. It simply unleashed a wave of null-energy drones into the forest, each one slicing through the canopy with near-silent precision. But Black Echo was already awake. Gideon vaulted into the cockpit, hands gripping the control panels like extensions of his own body. The ship roared to life, its event wave engine pulsing a deep crimson. "Lock onto the Vexor's gravity anchor," he ordered. "Target locked," the AI replied. "Probability of full disable, 68%. "Good enough." Black Echo's first salvo wasn't a clean strike. It wasn't meant to be. Plasma lances carved through the jungle, tearing apart the Vexor's stabilizers. The massive Union ship shuddered and veered off course, crashing into the dense blue canopy. Fire bloomed like a second sun, and the ground shook with the impact. But Gideon didn't wait for them to regroup. He landed hard, cutting the engines. As he grabbed his repeater rifle, "Row with me," he barked. "We end this here." The Whisper operatives were already moving, phasing through the smoke like shadows given form. Their armor reflected no light, their weapons emitted no sound. They were killers bred to erase problems before they became wars. But Gideon was no ordinary problem. He struck first, his rifle spitting disruptor rounds that pierced even their adaptive shields. Each shot was precise, a hunter's shot, honed by 50 years of survival and hate. Alina moved alongside him, twin pistols flashing, her movements as sharp as the woman she used to be. The battle in the jungle was brutal and close. Gideon fought like a storm-given flesh, his breath steady, his mind cold. One operative lunged with the plasma blade. Gideon parried, spun, and fired point-blank into the man's visor. Another tried to vanish into cloaking fields. Gideon hurled an EMP grenade and dragged him out of invisibility, ending him with a single-shot dot. By the time the smoke cleared, the Vexor was burning. Its hull split open like a dying beast. A handful of survivors fled into the trees. Their mission failed. Their pride shattered. Gideon stood over the wreckage, rifle still smoking, his face unreadable. "They'll come back," Alina said, breathing hard. "And next time, it won't just be one ship." "They can come," Gideon replied, staring up at the sky. "The galaxy's watching now. Let them see what happens when you push us too far." Far above Asta 9, the Union fleet had already received news of the Vexor's destruction. What they saw in the leaked footage Black Echo tearing through the Union's elite was enough to send shockwaves through the highest councils. In that moment, the Union understood that Gideon wasn't just a threat. He was the beginning of something they couldn't control. The myth of Earth had returned, and this time it was armed. The Union came with everything it had. The quiet jungle moon of Asta 9 trembled as ships began dropping out of FTL one after another, blotting out the stars with a wall of gold and steel. 3 dreadnoughts, 9 war carriers, and a siege hyven. AI-controlled Leviathan built to sterilize entire planets locked into formation above the atmosphere. This wasn't a containment fleet. This was Annihilation Dot in the resistance bunker beneath the blue glass trees. The ground hummed as the Union's gravitational anchors settled into orbit. Dust drifted from the ceiling as Burke slammed his fists on the war table. "That's not a fleet. That's a death sentence. They'll burn this moon to cinders before they let your message spread any further." "They can try," Gideon said, voice cold and steady. He stood in the command bay, armored suit strapped across his frame, his face carved with the kind of calm that only came from accepting the worst. "We're not here to survive them. We're here to make sure the galaxy sees exactly what it costs to erase a people." Alina Rose stepped forward, her eyes cutting through the rising tension. "We can't hold against that fleet. Not with ground defenses this thin. Gideon, this is suicide." "It's not suicide," he said, glancing at her. "It's proof." The first volley came from orbit kinetic spears hurled at hypersonic speeds, detonating in the upper atmosphere. They weren't meant to kill yet, only to terrify. The forest lit up in streaks of orange and violet as the sky cracked with soundless impacts. The resistance scrambled, old Earth-Tech rail towers powering up with a deep thrum. Their ionized payloads aimed skyward. "Status?" Gideon barked, striding onto Black Echo's ramp. The ship pulsed red in response, like it was hungry for what was coming. "Union fleet at full readiness," the AI reported. "Siege hive charging sterilization cores. Estimated surface impact in 6 minutes." "Not happening," Gideon muttered, climbing into the cockpit. The ship's systems came alive under his touch, the event wave core roaring as if it could sense his intent. "Lock on to that hive." Alina's voice came over the comm. "Gideon, don't you dare go in there alone." "Row," he said, quiet but unyielding. "Someone has to make them remember." He paused, his hand tightening over the fire pad. "You lead them if I don't make it back." "Don't talk like that," she shot back, but her voice broke. "Slightly." He didn't answer. He COULDN single quotes T. Black Echo launched from the clearing, its jagged hull slicing through the atmosphere like a spearhead of rage. The Union fleet immediately adjusted, hundreds of guns locking onto its heat signature, but none of them could hold the ship in their sights. It blinked in and out of space, folding itself through gravitational nodes, moving faster than their targeting arrays could process. From the deck of the dreadnought's Silent Crown, Admiral Sodal, now recalled from Kier after her exposure, watched in grim silence. Her career, her reputation, and perhaps her entire Union were on the line. "Focus all fire on the Echo," she commanded. "Crush it before it gets close." The fleet obeyed, unleashing a storm of firepower. Plasma bursts and rail slugs screamed through space, but Gideon's ship danced between them, weaving through the chaos like a ghost. He wasn't just dodging, he was hunting. "Targeting Hive Core," the AI said. "Probability of success, 12%. "Good," Gideon replied. "I like the odds." As Black Echo closed in, Gideon activated every external comm channel. His face filled the screens of Union ships, stations, and every hacked civilian. "Network within the broadcast range. You call me a war criminal," he said, his voice cutting through the void like a blade. "But I didn't start the war. I just lived long enough to finish the sentence you wrote 50 years ago." He switched the feed to footage of Earth, the blue oceans, the bustling cities, the moments before they burned. The sound of the purge, bombardment, the screams, the silence that followed. Then his face returned, hard and unflinching. "You wanted silence. You wanted peace without truth. But peace built on ash is a lie with a ticking clock. I am the sound of that clock." With that, Black Echo dove straight into the siege hive. The AI's voice rang in his ears. "Core reactor destabilization required. Escape probability, 0.3%. "I know," Gideon said, gripping the controls. "You ready?" "I was born ready," the AI replied. And for the first time, it almost sounded alive. The ship's reactor flared to maximum, the event wave core humming at a frequency that made the hull tremble. Gideon locked onto the hive's central reactor and accelerated, folding through layers of space until there was no turning back. The last thing he saw was Alina's face on the comm, her eyes wide, her voice breaking as she called his name. Then Black Echo screamed. The explosion didn't just light up the sky. It ripped a hole in reality, a burst of energy that twisted space and time. The siege hive was erased, not destroyed, but unmade, its structure dissolving into nothingness. The shockwave slammed into the Union fleet, tearing carriers apart and scattering what remained. When the light faded, Black Echo was gone. So was Gideon. In the aftermath, the Union fractured. Sodal was stripped of her command and arrested on charges of war crimes after Gideon's final broadcast flooded every network. Civilian protests erupted across core worlds and entire sectors began withdrawing from Union control. The myth of Earth had become a rallying cry for the oppressed and forgotten. On Asta 9, survivors gathered in the clearing where Black Echo had once stood. Alina Rose stood at the front, her jacket torn, her eyes tired but burning with new purpose. "He didn't die for revenge," she said to the crowd. "He died to remind them we were here, that we are still here." They built a monument on Nu. Terra, a bronze figure of Gideon, hands down, face tilted toward the stars. At its base, a single line was carved in 7 languages. They asked why we only sent one ship. The answer is written in fire across the stars. But somewhere in the outer void, far from any known chart, a fragment of Black Echo's AI pulsed faintly in the dark, waiting. The galaxy's reckoning was only beginning.